Let us execute an immediate, sweeping analytical vector shift away from the established fallout grids, advanced extortion traps, and late-tier escalations of later series installments, and plunge straight into the high-octane, calculation-heavy origin tracking grids, where the initial virus of domestic envy first compromises a pristine suburban household sanctuary. We are crossing the threshold directly into the hyper-monitored, deception-slicked foundations of a seemingly flawless lifestyle, exploring the lethal analytical parameters of an intense, trust-shattering asset infiltration matrix with I Want Your Family, the exceptional, pulse-pounding psychological thriller masterpiece that launched the Hunt family series, engineered by the absolute undisputed sovereign of calculating domestic traps, dark relationship chess matches, and high-velocity suburban paranoia, Daniel Hurst. This high-stakes narrative tracking sequence delivers an exceptional look at an operational crossroads where a fierce, underestimated primary maternal asset running an unyielding safety loop, a calculating, deeply sociopathic external infiltrator asset running a high-stakes proximity tracking and replacement routine, and an absolute defense of a family unit's core survival metrics collide at terminal velocity. Let us map the strategic narrative grid. If you are an elite enthusiast of high-octane, slow-burn psychological thrillers, where an endangered, hyper-observant female protagonist must navigate an absolute maze of rigged social interactions, corrupt neighborhood dynamics, and a deadly ring of active insider frame-ups while running a blind survival loop inside her completely compromised domestic ecosystem, where an analytical mind uses deep behavioral profiling, calculated internal boundaries, and absolute emotional stamina to outmaneuver an invisible predatory executioner asset who slowly strips away her life pieces one by one, and where the author utilizes an incandescent, envious outsider systematically infiltrates a wealthy mother's inner circle to steal her husband, her children, and her entire identity, triggering a lethal war for sovereignty diagnostic routine to test our hero's structural limits, this book is engineered to lock you in. Hurst completely dominates the high-precision identity theft facade meets suffocating domestic infiltration perimeters dynamic, capturing the heart-racing intellectual momentum, suffocating domestic paranoia, and heavy deductive depth popularized by genre varks like Frida McFadden, The Housemaid, K.L. Slater, B.A. Paris, and Sherry LaPena, while treating realistic psychological leverage logistics, complex multi-perspective alignment arcs, and protective high-density domestic extraction grids with absolute technical mastery. The narrative tracking grid zeroes in on the highly volatile, calculation-heavy baseline of our central legendary powerhouse asset, Naomi Hunt, operating under a severe calculation-heavy handicap of comfortable domestic complacency, intense local community scrutiny, and a hyper-visible targeting canvas within her high society social grid. Behind Naomi's rigorous mothering footprints, philanthropic project logs, and perfect home scheduling lies an intricate matrix of hidden faction allegiances, deeply buried corporate friction, and sharp, high-stakes tactical maneuvers. Her collective defense mechanisms are locked down tight behind a lifetime of protecting her marriage to her successful husband, Charles, her entire analytical focus strictly consumed by monitoring sudden threat vectors from an encroaching social circle, parsing complex behavioral shifts from her children, and shielding her vulnerable household sanctuary from being entirely wiped out by a ruthless elite cleanup offensive. The spark ignites when an unexpected high-frequency structural anomaly breaches her active scanning perimeter. A charming, highly calculating external entity named Karen maneuvers her way directly into Naomi's personal and professional network. Behind Karen's helpful, overly attentive civilian facade and artificial database logs lies an intricate matrix of deep-seated resentment, obsessive psychological mapping, and a cold, calculation-heavy replacement directive. As the hostile adversarial execution phases enter an increasingly lethal terminal tier across her ticking clock timeline, Naomi's defensive layers begin to buckle under the weight of an escalating proximity containment routine. The official diagnostic metrics of the global tracking centers flash white-hot when Karen begins sabotaging Naomi's maternal reliability records, maneuvering Charles's executive focus, and systematically executing a clean, traceless takeover of her physical and emotional property grid.
The standard boundaries of routine neighborhood etiquette and peaceful civilian compliance protocols crumble, and our central protagonists run completely out of standard diplomatic escape vectors. They are thrust directly into an active, invisible war behind the locked doors of their estate, where a highly manipulative system handler launches aggressive countermeasures to permanently suppress Naomi's survival data stream and delete her from her own family node. The tactical parameters instantly explode as their historical and survival warfare turns completely active, transforming the isolated residential rooms, dark manicured gardens, and private fortified office zones into a volatile psychological pressure cooker and a physical battle zone. Our protective, hyper-vigilant heroine is forced to deploy her massive intuitive tradecraft, elite behavioral mapping skills, and raw emotional stamina to preserve her focus before her adversary's relentless, calculation-heavy proximity containment phase permanently deletes her boundaries. The threat vector remains purposeful and resolute, determined to deploy deep digital extortion loops, continuous psychological gaslighting, and persistent dominance to shatter Naomi's defense, only to realize that when a mother's core sanctuary is backed into a terminal corner, her hardened survival protocols and shifting counter-narratives match their opponent's raw tactical speed step for step. Every midnight archival excavation of hidden digital trails, every silent choice to stand off against an encroaching adversary behind standard architectural barriers, and every intense moment of channeling raw, unyielding survival mechanics chips away at her reliance on original peaceful rules. What follows is an exceptional, high-stakes war of perspective, tactical position, and raw human grit. We watch the Suburban elite's deceptive perimeters completely unwrapped as Daniel Hurst reveals that the true victory requires more than just surviving an initial social betrayal or managing a difficult personal disclosure. It demands an absolute, uncompromising defense of individual dignity, personal truth, and systemic survival against a cold, calculating machine of domestic manipulation and psychopathic supremacy. While our central characters smooth over each other's psychological and defensive blind spots with devastating analytical force, creating a fiercely protective, absolute web of dark possessive loyalty around their shared perimeter, a brutal series of close-quarters tactical confrontations and high-stakes evidentiary breakthroughs shifts the clock into its terminal phase, proving that deep-seated envy has tracked them to their final outpost. To survive the impending locked grid trap and permanently secure her sanctuary, our resilient heroine must unleash an absolute, unyielding defense of her final boundary lines. It is a psychological thriller, domestic suspense noir, infiltration secret mystery, high-velocity contemporary puzzle masterpiece that treats deep relational logistics and intense structural friction with elite precision. The tension here burns with a sharp, calculation-heavy intensity. We are talking about that high-frequency, one stolen set of house keys triggers a fatal Suburban Manor showdown energy, where a sudden pause during an active franchise tactical briefing, an unexpected shift in an adversary's protective physical posture during a high-stakes standoff confrontation, or a heavy, possessive realization that an elite intelligence operative has completely mapped your personal coordinates carries massive structural weight. Hurst writes with an exceptionally fresh, vivid, and beautifully blunt voice, capturing the heavy, oppressive atmosphere of a private executive vault before a major corporate takeover, and the distinct scent of polished mahogany, fresh-cut grass, expensive home furnishings, cold adrenaline, and pure, unadulterated suspense. What truly elevates this contemporary series opener into elite territory is the author's unmatched ability to balance complex, high-stakes relationship dynamics and genuine protective power tradecraft alongside a breathtaking narrative pace and deep emotional hooks. Our protagonists don't rely on unbelievable, superficial Hollywood superhero action tropes. Their immense situational intelligence, strategic patience, and profound survival instincts match the complexity of the chaotic modern corporate and high society underworld they dominate step for step, making their choices to risk everything feel profoundly authentic and deeply gripping. The pacing moves with calculated momentum, tracking intense conversational standoffs and breathtaking tactical breakthroughs before ratcheting up to an absolute jaw-dropping conclusion that delivers total, hard-earned advancement to their horizon. I Want Your Family is the definitive, pro-level upgrade your high-stakes contemporary thriller and intense asset suspense library demands right now. It is elegant, immensely fast-paced, and utterly unputtable. It proves that when your entire sanctuary is targeted by a cold, calculating institutional monster, the most revolutionary play you can execute is to lock your perimeters, trust your elite survival training, and fight like hell alongside your network to rewrite the data. So, secure your personal reading sanctuary, review your emotional defensive perimeters, open your Kindle, and prepare to track the